The king of Michigan game birds, is it the ringneck pheasant or is it the ruffed grouse? A lot of people feel that waterfowl are the hottest thing going and the most beautiful birds in the world. But all of our hunters in Michigan, small game hunters, are going to be in for a real treat at our Small Game Hunters Workshop, September 11th, 9 days from now, and we have our special show this evening. We're going to talk about our Small Game Hunters Workshop with Glenn Dutter and a lot of other people, so stay tuned. It's Thursday night and time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the North, it's history.
Obviously, that was the opening of our Michigan Outdoors program on this date in 1982, September 2nd. Now, 22 years later, on September 2nd, the show is preempted on public TV due to the Republican National Convention. So you're either watching this show in its repeat slot on the weekend, or you're a PSF partner watching it on the web. This show is interesting because it's based on the 1982 show that promoted our first Small Game Hunters Workshop. This show is a reminder of the many things that have changed in the outdoors since 1982, not with the outdoors itself, but with the people who hunt and fish. Fred will explain the changes he's seen over the past 25 years, and his thoughts might just give you a little bit different perspective. So stay tuned. I'm Zachary Trost, and you're watching the September 2nd, 2004 edition of The Practical Sportsman.
From the rugged shores and woodlands of the North, it's history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fishery. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around, my friend, at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you all the beauty in the state of Michigan.
Identifying small game is most important when it comes to ducks, right, Glenn?
Because of the variety of species in the point system and the different numbers that you can take of each species.
And this is no problem.
Oh, the bufflehead is easy. Small size, black, white, black, white, black, white.
Okay.
But that's not so.
We'll take another species here that we'll be talking about in our Small Game Hunters
I think
Workshop.
the male is always recognizable because of his bald pate, the widgeon or bald pate. But look at this young female. In flight, that'd be kind of hard to recognize, and that's one of the things we'll be talking about.
Okay, that's in our waterfowl section of the workshop. Of course, we have another series of seminars, discussions on this bird, a regal bird, the ruffed grouse, very common in Michigan and increasing in popularity among small game hunters.
Yes, and probably becoming more numerous in many of our wooded areas because of better management.
Let's hear a Glenn Dutter tip here. I know one's coming up.
Well, I think hunters should be able to tell the sex of their birds, and with grouse, it's not as easy as, say, with pheasants. This black band, if it's solid, it definitely tells you it's a male. But if it's broken, well, it could be a male or it could be a female.
Yeah, you can see that right there. These two feathers are a little bit mottled, not like the clear black band across here. What does that mean? Is this a male or female?
Well, I would guess it's probably a male, but to be sure, I'd have to measure the length of those two tail feathers. And if they're long, over 7 centimeters, it's a male. If they're less than that, it's a female.
That's just a little touch of what you're going to get in the Small Game Hunters Workshop. But right now, Glenn, let's go to Charlie Gunter, the DNR Wildlife Chief, who has a few words about the DNR's involvement here in the workshop.
Well, Fred, you know, when you first proposed the idea of a Small Game Hunters Workshop, we in the Wildlife Division jumped at the opportunity to participate. Because if there's one thing I think we should do more of, that's looking through the eyes of a hunter. And this gives us an opportunity to meet with 1,500 hunters if we reach that many, and I think we will on a personal basis. We've made a heavy commitment of manpower to that day. We're going to have several of our people there. We're going to talk specifically about small game conditions, some plans that we have for the future, and I couldn't be happy enough if it turns out the way we have it planned.
Yes, sir. The 1982 Small Game Hunters Workshop turned out well, as did the Deer Hunters Workshop that followed a month later. Then we combined these two workshops into what we called the Outdoor Fair, and that had about a 15-year lifespan. I worked with the DNR quite a bit in those days, but society was a lot different in 1982, and so were sportsmen. Those were the days when the DNR relied on biology rather than politics to make their management decisions. It was before sportsmen's groups began arguing about hunting and fishing techniques. It was before hunting and fishing laws got so complicated that sportsmen began dropping out. And it was before conservation officers stopped doing public relations and became hard-nosed fish cops who enforced the letter of the law against unsuspecting sportsmen. It was also a decade before we started holding puppy Saturdays at the museum. But then, we didn't have a museum in those days.
Of course, Glenn, you're holding what used to be the king of game birds, and many people still hope will have a comeback, the ringneck pheasant, subject of several of our seminars at the workshop. But we have a lot of people involved in this, a lot of aspects from shooting and survival and so on, including bird dogs, one of the most interesting things. So let's go to a vet clinic right now with Will Schultz and talk about a rather interesting species.
Did you hear what I just said?
Now with Will Schultz and talk about a rather interesting species.
Species? Domestic dogs are all one species. Different types of dogs are breeds, not species. I really knew better than that.
A lot of hunters use dogs. A lot of small game hunters use dogs in their hunting. And of course, everybody has a favorite breed. You know what this one is? Cute looking pup. Well, Will Schultz, you're a veterinarian. You're going to be our dog specialist at the Small Game Hunters Workshop. What kind of dog is this?
This is a German Wirehair pointer.
We're called a draught hair.
Right.
In the German language. Pretty popular breed?
No, there are
really.
only a few in this area.
Mhm.
They're a very, very good upland bird dog. And they do get in the water pretty well, but not as well as some of the other breeds.
Well, some people would say they're an all-around dog, but
That's right.
people who really specialize in their hunting, like grouse hunters, would tend to use
Right.
English setters,
Right.
springers a little bit now?
Yep, a lot more springers getting into the bird hunting.
What
A lot
types
more.
of problems do grouse hunters have with their dogs?
Well, grouse hunters go into a lot of dry cover because they're hunting late fall and they're hunting a lot of plowed down farm, not plowed down, but cut wheat fields and things. And as they get further north, they're into the woods, so they get sticks in the pads or they get cut
feet.
wheat stalks right into the
feet are the
feet
problem.
and the webs because they have really delicate feet in that dog. And so you have to watch them for any cuts, wounds, any kind of abrasions to the feet.
Of course, at our workshop, you'll be telling us things
Yep.
to look for and how to do it.
That's right, and how to
What-
treat 'em.
What about rabbit hunters who use beagles?
Beagles we watch a lot for corneal problems on their eyes
On
because
their eyes?
beagles will follow that bunny anywhere and as they go through the briars they get scratches on their face and once in a while in the fall and winter during rabbit season we'll get beagles in with scratched corneas and that can be a very serious problem. They can lose vision in their eye very quickly with it, so if they have problems they have to be seen right away.
And what about retrievers, people who hunt ducks?
Retrievers we watch for water because they're usually out, they're out wet, they're out all day long. The dog usually helps put in the decoys and they get their ears wet a lot because they don't mind going underwater, so we watch them for a lot of ear flap infections or wet ear problems and those are usually amenable to treatment if we see them right away. And if they're going to hunt the rest of the year and you want a dog that's going to be able to sit without digging at his ears all day long, you have to take pretty good care of those.
Well, which is better, to have a dog hunting in Michigan with long hair or short hair?
I always prefer the short hair. It depends, again. If you're going to hunt anywhere where there's a lot of cocklebur, and anytime a pheasant hunter goes out or a rabbit hunter, he knows where the burrs are, either steers clear of them or goes through them. But that's up to the hunter. If it's a long-haired dog, like Emmy with a wiry hair, this hair doesn't tend to pick up burrs as much. If it's a setter, they tend to pick up burrs, so we will put them on a coat oil, and a lot of pet shops carry those. And you mix it with water and spray it on them.
Spray it on the...
Right.
Some hunters
and the
use
burrs
Vaseline.
comb out. Right. Vaseline works, but Vaseline's really hard to get out of the dog, and then the dog's Vaselined up for the rest of the season, just about.
What about keeping a dog indoors? Is it okay to keep a hunting dog indoors with the family, or should you just put it outside?
If it's in the late winter and you're going to do a lot of rabbit hunting, that's rough on them to be in and out all day long, or out for several hours and then back in. But in a regular bird dog, we have a lot of people that come in that say the dog can't do it. We have a lot of bird dogs that sleep on the bed every night with the owners.
Doesn't seem to hurt them, huh?
No, it doesn't bother them.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, we're going to have
Emmy.
you at the workshop, along with Steve Smith, who's the editor of Gun Dog Magazine. Both of you will be able to answer a lot of questions.
Good.
We're going to have retrievers, setters, hounds, some blue ticks, beagles,
Great.
all kinds of
Good.
dogs at the clinic for people to see, demonstrations. You can have Emmy there?
Yes, Emmy's going to come along for the ride.
Well, come to the Small Game Hunters
Yes,
Workshop
Emmy.
and meet Emmy, along with all the other dog celebrities. German wire-haired pointer.
Interesting stuff, tips on hunting dogs. Another thing that has changed over the years is the number of hunting accidents during small game season. Jim Dabb was the DNR's hunter education coordinator in those days, and he broke that news to our audience in 1982.
The statistics for last year, we had 3 injuries where the victim moved into line of fire, 8 accidents, including the fatality and the victim covered by the shooter swinging on game. Victims out of sight of shooter, there were 22 accidents there last year. Mistaken for game, we had 3. Ricochet, there was 6. Shooter stumbled and fell, 3. All 3 of those were self-inflicted. Trigger caught on brush or other object, 4 of them, all self-inflicted. 2 where the weapon fell from an insecure rest, leaning up against a tree. 1 of those was self-inflicted. Horseplay with a loaded firearm, 1 self-inflicted. Crossing a fence or other obstacle, 1. Unloading, only 1. Our message has gotten across. Okay. Careless handling, we had 8 total, including 1 fatality. Defective firearms, there were 4. Weapon rupture, there were 2. And miscellaneous or unknown, there were 2.
How is the legislature upset about the accidents? Are they responding to the public saying, hey, hunting is dangerous?
They were upset, as the public was, back in the late 60s. And we started with the mandatory hunter education program for 12 through 16-year-olds in 1971. And that was because of the concerns of the public and the legislature. And in 1977, the Hunter Orange Law. The legislature has been very responsive.
Well, we've been cleaning up our act. We really have, to a very admirable degree.
You see what happened in the 1960s and 70s? The legislature passed more hunting laws, and they worked from the safety standpoint. I think that led to the idea that more laws would even work better, because we rolled into an era of complicated regulations, and lots of them. That's when the role of our conservation officers began changing. Let's drop back to 1982, a year when hunters looked forward to seeing a conservation officer in the field, a year when hunters were hunters and COs were COs. That was before hunters realized that they had become the hunted.
The information they need to comply with the statutes covering hunting are contained in the Hunting and Trapping Guide. And although it may not contain 100% of what they need, on the back are listed the telephone numbers of all of the DNR regional and district offices. And for informational purposes, they can call the office closest to them to get any questions that are unanswered or perhaps vague in their minds with reference to reading the guide.
So you do admit that there are a few regulations that might be a little vague.
Or complicated.
Or confusing.
Or confusing, or perhaps just occupying more space than there's available or practically available in a guide this size.
Okay, sure.
And particularly regulations, I guess, that would pertain to a certain specialized sport. Duck hunting in a managed unit, put and take pheasant hunting, turkey hunting in the spring as an example.
Well, what about pheasant hunting and shooting hours? That's changed.
That's a major change in pheasant hunting this year. Pheasant hunting in Zone 3, which is the southern...
There are no better people to ask about the game laws, new and old, than the people who enforce them. Conservation officers...
Unfortunately, that is no longer true. Today, too many COs don't really understand the laws they're enforcing, nor do the hunters, nor do the prosecutors, judges, and juries. That being said, let's move to the subject of field care of game. A lot of wrong information has been put out on the subject over the years, and we tried to straighten that out in 1982.
No, nearly all hunters value the game they bring home as food, and MSU Extension Specialist Cal Flagel will teach us some surprising things about the field care of game.
I'm going to tell these people that they should handle fresh shot game just as we did the poultry industry 40 years ago, before we had the efficient refrigeration and fast transportation techniques that we have today. The thing that one should do immediately upon retrieving the bird, if it's already dead, they should not do anything to it other than hang it on their belt.
Well, what about the game pouch?
Well, that's something nice for in the winter, but during game pheasant season, it generally can be quite warm, and you've actually got yourself a small oven there, and I just would not use it. What you should do is go back to your car about every hour or so, and you should have yourself some nice cool beverage there and something for your dog, and put your bird intact with feathers on, viscera inside, untouched, on the ice, and leave them there. Because if you open that bird in the field, as you well know, we don't have very good conditions in the field, you will open that bird up for good bacterial invasion. And as long as you
What
don't...
does that do? What does that bacteria do?
It will change the taste, and it can actually spoil the bird.
Huh.
And if you leave it intact, the bacteria don't have a chance to get in, and therefore you will retain the good taste that is in a fresh shot pheasant.
I'll be darned. This is contrary to what most hunters have believed, what I grew up believing. What, does this apply to ducks and grouse and rabbits?
I would handle all small game that way, but as you're well aware too, when most people are hunting rabbits, it's much cooler, so you don't run the risk that we do in these temperatures when it's 70 and 80 and 90 degrees. It's perfect for bacterial growth and invasion.
Well, what should you do with the pheasant? Should you pluck it, skin it?
Okay, my recommendation is this. To get the best tasting wild pheasant or grouse or woodcock, they should not be skinned. I realize that's much easier to do, but we're going to show them in the school how to pluck the birds, the right temperatures, and because if you take the skin off, there goes the fat cover, much of the flavor, and also it's very, very easy to dry the bird out when the skin is taken off during cooking.
So the fat in birds is not as distasteful as it is, say, in deer?
Oh, no, no, no. That's where most of the flavor actually is.
Ah. Learn something every minute with you,
Very
Cal.
good. Real
this
good.
is super. Well, this is going to be great in the workshop. Now, I did a recipe with Kay Ritchie. We're going to show you this in just a moment with a pheasant. And I said in that, while we were cutting it up, I said, I'd like to cut a little more fat off because, this might be the bad flavor. And I was wrong.
In my opinion, yes, that's right.
Okay, well, that may be the only wrong thing we did in this recipe coming up right now. So let's go up to Ludington with Kay Ritchie in this recipe for stuffed pheasant.
Oh, hold it a second here. Before we give you a summary of that recipe, what did you think about what Cal Flegel said about dressing out small game? It might have sounded like revolutionary stuff, but he was actually explaining scientific principles that are as old as the hills. We're going to promote small game hunting a lot more on this show because participation has just declined dramatically among small game hunters in the past decade. To me, hunting for food is why I hunt small game, and I think we need to promote that. Anyway, Kay Ritchie wrote a very popular book 25 years ago called Savor the Wild, and this is where we found her recipe for stuffed pheasant.
I think that a nice roasting bird roasts up much nicer with the skin on. If you have a real badly shot up bird, then skin it and use just the breast and use the rest of it for soup stock.
I see some little bits of fat in here. You don't mind if I cut that out, do you?
No, you can get that right out of there.
Sort of fat on salmon or fat on deer. Fat on most wild game is the part that tastes gamey. But you say the skin makes it taste better?
I think it does. And it really makes a nicer table product also to have the skin left on.
Now, to prepare the stuffing, what did you do? You have some of it already made.
We sauteed onions and celery in butter, and we added a can of cream of chicken soup.
Okay, did you add any milk with that?
No, but we're going to add a little bit of water. Our seasoning is already in our herb dressing here, our stuffing, and we're going to now add that, and then we're going to...
Seasoned stuffing. This is about 8 ounces.
Well, we're going to make a wild rice dressing, put it in the bird. There's going to be a lot of extra dressing, and what we're going to do is we're going to lay the bird right in on top of this dressing.
Oh, I see.
And then we're going to stick it in the oven, and we're going to cook it for about an hour at 350 degrees. Fred, the way that I test for doneness is I pierce the breast, and then I push, and the juices that come out as you press should just slightly be pink.
That indicates what?
That indicates that it's just about done perfect.
Oh, okay. I can't wait to taste it. Well, Glenn, we have an awful lot of people that are going to participate in this clinic. A lot of presenters. In fact, we have a guy from Winchester, Sandy Wood, who's coming all the way from Connecticut to talk about guns and chokes and loads. Another way of hunting small game, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is archery. Bow hunting. I know you're quite a wing shot with the bow.
Would like to be.
Well, like Ron LeClaire right there, he can take them right out of the air. He's going to be doing a demonstration. We're going to have people who use slingshots and muzzle loaders. And of course, survival is an important thing. Eric Olson is going to teach you, if you bring your bathing suit, how you can survive in the water if you fall in with your snowmobile suit and waders on. So call for reservations.
No, 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 don't call for reservations. That workshop was in 1982.